Hello and welcome to the Corporate Facilities Council September 1st Wednesday webinar, Sustainability and Material Health, presented by Howard Williams and Kendra Marks. I do want to let everyone know they have been muted for audio quality. If you do have any questions at any time during the webinar, please type them into the question box on your control panel, and we will review them at the Q&A portion during the end of the webinar. I do want to let everyone know that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Corporate Facility Council's website. If you do want a PDF of the PowerPoint, you may go ahead and download now on your control panel under the handout section. Just expand that box and then click the download. I want to go ahead and introduce our presenters for this first part in a three-part series. And this one is Sustainability and Material Health. The first presenter is Howard Williams. He's Senior Vice President of Sustainability, previously Vice President General Manager, the Interiors Division of Construction Specialties, Inc. The division received the 2003 Pennsylvania Governor's Award for Environmental Excellence. He also led the Acrovan Business Unit's transition to non-PVC products. The division received the U.S. EPA's Mid-Atlantic Region 2011 Award for Environmental Excellence. Howard has testified before the U.S. Senate and the House supporting chemical policy reform. He participated in the UN Chemicals and Products meeting in Geneva, Belgrade, and Boston. He serves on the Certification Standards Board of the Cradle to Grave Product Innovation Institute. He is LEED AP certified. Howard initiated the CS Transparency Labeling Program. His work in the area of material health led to the CS cameo in the documentary The Human Experiment. He was an active member of the USGBC Supply Chain Optimization Working Group developing language for LEED version 4 Material and Resources Option 3. Our other presenter is Kendra Marks. She's the Corporate Sustainability Coordinator since 2013. She manages environmental product declarations, i.e. cradle-to-grave product certifications and health product declarations, implements environmental impact reduction strategies, and assists with corporate sustainability strategy. She serves as a sustainability research consultant on the market trends for the business unit. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Howard and Kendra.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you everybody for joining us today. So Howard and I work for Construction Specialties, a specialty architectural product manufacturer that was formed in 1948. We are a privately owned U.S. company that has grown since then into a multinational company with 17 offices and plants across the globe. We have 70 LEED accredited professionals and green associates to help us better understand how to develop our products. How to better develop our products and also relate to our customers' needs. We have many product lines, but 6 of them have various models that are cradle-to-cradle certified at bronze, silver, and gold. We've become known as being a solutions provider to unusual design challenges, and we're a market leader with many of the products that we've invented over the years.
This is part 1, as Josh indicated, of why sustainability and material health matters. What we are looking to do today is to give an overview of the foundations of sustainability and material health, and really to place things in a contextual framework, because once we understand context and strategies, we're more apt and more capable of mitigating or implementing those strategies that will lead to good design. So our objectives today are to enhance your ability to be conversant. Many of you are already, and this is perhaps just another perspective or overview, but enhance and be more conversant on the origins and scope of contemporary sustainability, and also on human health, and then describing some of these contextual issues that we'll talk about.
The most broadly accepted definition of sustainability is to create and maintain the conditions under which humans and nature can exist in productive harmony to support present and future generations. Now, there isn't one exact definition of sustainability. So as you all embark or continue your personal journey with sustainability, I encourage you all to create a definition that's important to you and is aligned with your organization's mission. This definition can become your mantra that'll help guide your organization through its journey. The best way and the only way to ensure humans and nature exist in this balance is to address these 5 main pillars of sustainability, which Howard will go into detail in a little bit later on in the presentation. And I know everyone listening today on this webinar already wants to do better and has already made the first necessary steps to work on implementing sustainability at their facilities. But we all need to keep working together on doing less bad and more good. So as you listen today, think about how we can harmonize and collaborate to leave more positive handprints.
I like Kendra's use of the term handprints. Handprints seem so intentional. Footprints sometimes are intentional, but they just get us places. Handprints are what we take on and pick up and become a little more personal with. And relative to buildings, the opportunities for us to make such a great difference are here when you look at this list of percentages of electric consumed, energy, CO2, raw material waste. It's such a large percentage. And when you look at this, you begin to think that buildings are somewhat of gluttonous structures. But the reality is that they're not the cause. They're where we congregate. They're the central point of our activity. And that then provides us an opportunity to really begin to work on the cure. Buildings are just a reflection of design and use. And change our design and use, and we change these statistics. But there's where we need to be looking at why change, what will be the result, how is it done, what will it cost, what will it save.
Okay.
Sustainability is a reasonably new term in the scale of time, but it really has its roots in 19th century thinking when everyone was worried about what's the carrying capacity? How many people can this one Earth sustain? And in many times, carrying capacity is today discussed as, well, we need 2 Earths, we need 3 Earths. But inevitably, our food supply has always been able to keep pace with human development. So as we progress from carrying capacity, we begin to think about natural resource-oriented activities, looking at forestry practices, soil and water conservation. And then ultimately, sustainability became defined in a common set of words and terms that everyone can use as a benchmark. But it's never really been meant to be solely limiting. It's a benchmark, it's a definition that we can refer to. And as sustainability came in, social equity began to also play a part. Are the wealthy nations or are wealthy people going to buy up all the resources from the common good of all? Or are we going to locate manufacturing facilities in disadvantaged neighborhoods that really aren't going to be able to protest those facilities? Ultimately, prescriptive measures such as LEED and BREEAM came on to being in order to define green building. And green building has largely been natural resource and energy oriented, very, very tangible, very linear and literal. And the missing component was people. What will it do? What good will it do if we conserve the water and the earth and we use energy effectively and we go to solar energy across the world, but if we haven't cared for humanity, what will be the purpose? So the thinkers began looking at how can we do that? How can we bring health into this? And humanity and LEED version 4 carries that forward. And then ultimately the well building standard, which we'll talk about these in some of the later conversation in the other seminars. But that's where it's grown, and the well standard really begins to put health and wellness in answering the terms of a greater why. What is the purpose? your organization completed a sustainability study, survey of over 3,400 of your members with a pretty good 11% response rate, and determined that you consider projects sustainable if they lower the environmental impact, have fewer harmful emissions, they use low levels of energy, and things that are easily recycled. You want products and materials that are manufactured in an environmentally friendly way, and you want to have products that are made from recycled content. Within that survey, it becomes clear that 65 to 75% of you are using energy efficiently and effectively. You've taken steps to use natural daylight, retrofit your light fixtures, light sensors, you've done employee education, you use Energy Star. And these are all rock solid ways of mitigating the energy challenges. Water, 48% of you have water conservation measures in place. And the context of that is that the major aquifers in America are being depleted faster than they can be recharged. As a nation, we're running at a 4 trillion gallon per year freshwater deficit. And some of the strangest things that are contributing to that, it has been determined that leaky water pipes across the nation, whether it's a fire hydrant or municipal water supplies, leaky water pipes are responsible for about 1 trillion gallons per year of lost fresh water. Within the survey too, you look at finite resources, resources that simply cannot be renewed. And what are the challenges with that? Let's reuse, let's reduce, and let's recycle. And approximately 60% of you are purchasing recycled office products and earth-friendly products. You're looking at life cycle analysis and environmental criteria. But what is the context of that? Why are you doing that? And what will it help to mitigate? Globally, the flow of natural resources, not considering water, required to sustain the world's economy today is 6 billion tons per year. And really only a small percentage of that is ever actually reused or recycled. We have landfills that are closing. We have 15 of the 20,000 landfills in the U.S. are over capacity. The 60% of you are purchasing earth-friendly products, have that vendor product selection process in place. You have an environmentally preferred purchasing program in place. And through that, you are acting on the sustainability factors that you were focused to mitigate.
As Howard already mentioned, you guys are already well on your way to making changes in your operations by doing energy audits, Energy Star certifications, and different procedural efficiencies. But there is still one large area of opportunity that hasn't received the most attention yet. It's in the building materials themselves. If we were to calculate the total energy consumption of a high-performance building, operations would account for about 26%, and then materials that make up a building account for about 74%. So once this switch happens and everybody is, already existing in a high-performance building, the greatest area where we can make an impact is the carbon reduction in the materials themselves. There are some organizations that are already working on this challenge. Architecture 2030 has professionals in the built environment, whether it's architects, builders, or building owners, that have pledged to design all new buildings, developments, and major renovations to be carbon neutral by 2030. So some of you might be wondering, all right, why are we so focused on energy reductions in the built environment? Why not agriculture, or why not food production? Well, it's because this sector is responsible for nearly half of the U.S. carbon emissions in 2010. Using water effectively and efficiently. Many of you already, again, use low flush toilets, flow sensors, but there's still opportunities for us to improve here as well. Using native landscaping with native plants so that you don't have to use irrigation to water them. And again, working on down the supply chain. For here, all you have to do is ask, what are your vendors doing?
One of the areas that in many cases is overlooked as an opportunity to affect human health and wellness is that of materials of concern. And issues associated with that have only begun to receive the level of scrutiny necessary to affect that context, why, and what must be done. A couple of years ago, Dr. Claudia Miller made this quote to a group of architects at HKS Architects. They hold a Green Week, and HKS involved all of their staff across the world, over 1,100 architects, designers, and staff. And Dr. Miller said, you guys, architects, have a greater ability to improve public health than the medical professionals. Well, why would she say that? You know, doctors encourage us to exercise and to have a healthy diet. The Center for Disease Control, though, estimates that 80% of American adults don't get the recommended amount of exercise. You know, I actually tried to find what percentage of athletic shoes see the inside of a gym. So what's Dr. Miller saying? She's saying we don't listen to our doctors, but we live and work and play in buildings. So let's make buildings healthy. Let's make it easy to be active and not use products that contain chemicals of concern. And then strangely, these inanimate structures suddenly become animate partners for good. It's a strange transition. Not quite as strange, perhaps, as this comic strip. For years, I've collected comic strips, and this one really made me chuckle. The reality is the only one benefiting from living downstream of the Rogaine factory is the sheep farmer and collecting the wool. And the other reality is there's not really a lot of humor associated with some of the issues that come out of chemicals of concern. Non-government organizations like the Environmental Defense Fund really begin to restore some accountability to manufacturing, and they help us and you see the warning signs. The one on this slide that really strikes me the most is in the upper right, the 232 toxic chemicals found in umbilical cord blood. That baby has not drawn a breath of air yet, has not eaten anything, has not had its behind powdered or creamed, and yet it is preborn with 232 toxic chemicals. More and more, there's an understanding of the accumulative effect of toxic chemicals leading toward health risks. And we need to be much more deliberate about the products we develop and the materials we use. Now that's us as manufacturers. The great part too, though, is that each of us as manufacturers want to know what our customers are thinking. Just as Kendra talked about on the areas of energy and water within the supply chain, when you ask, what are you doing with your energy? What are you doing to conserve water? And then when you also ask, what's in that product? What are you doing to make safer products? We listen as manufacturers and we act. So ask your vendor, ask your suppliers what's in that product. I'll give you an example. Several years ago, Kaiser Permanente, the largest healthcare provider and insurer in America, called us into their office and said, we want you to eliminate PVC in your products. You have an approximately $1 million a year contract with us. If you want to keep that contract, a year from now you will come back and you will have a non-PVC product. We'll help you get there, but the only way you'll keep that contract is if you change your product. We understood pretty quickly. That's a pretty big lever and a good-sized hammer, and we understood and we acted and we changed. You as a buyer have tremendous power to change and affect future generations.
like Howard said about just asking, without asking, many of us wouldn't know what chemicals are found in our common building products and the associated hazards. I mean, carpets, windows, and wall coverings contain everything from phthalates to flame retardants, which are developmental toxicants and endocrine disruptors. There are a lot of customers of ours already out there asking these things of us, and we will disclose. We do disclose, and there are a lot of manufacturers just like us that do the same. And the more that you ask, the more it makes our jobs easier as well in getting down the supply chain. So besides this slide having a lot of abbreviations, M&Ms, no, I'm talking about an HKS initiative called Mindful Materials. We have TSCA, which is the Chemical Reform Act that I'll talk about a little later, Cradle to Cradle. There's a lot of abbreviations, but there's a lot of good going on in this slide. This slide is really just trying to show all these different initiatives that are going on out in our market and how they're all interconnected. And because they're all interconnected and aligned, it's really driving the market forward faster than ever. So often we're consumed by this idea of thinking, I'm just one person, or our company doesn't have enough buying power. But when we look around to our peers, we really see that we are all in this together, and together we can really make this change. So just as an example, I'm going to go through a couple of various organizations that are already taking some really great steps. Within the last few years, the American Institute of Architects and the American Society of Interior Designers have altered their strategic priorities to include material health. As Howard said, throughout the evolution of sustainability, material health and how it impacted humans, that was always kind of missing in the conversation. But recently, more and more people are realizing that it isn't just so linear, that buildings aren't just a stagnant piece, and that we are all interconnected and it's a living system. So now the core of AIA's work is around responsible material selection, sourcing safe materials that can be perpetually cycled throughout the environment with low impacts on the environment. Members of AIA and ASID recognize their work extends beyond just the physical structure of the building. Their designs and materials they select touch people's lives, and that's where they can influence health in the built environment. And both of these organizations have recently launched aggressive educational activities to help bring awareness around these. So if you are looking for best practices of how you can implement this into your work, I'd encourage you to check out their websites as well.
We don't have to take, and we really shouldn't, take any of this at immediate face value. We can check, we can look. Over the years, we've had the dilemma. Do we believe the trade organization or do we listen to our customers? What's happening? Why is it happening? Ultimately, we decided that trade organizations really don't buy products from us. The self-centered trade organizations that many manufacturers belong to. Our customers buy and use products. And Safer Chemicals and Healthy Families has been the consistent, solid source of credible information. Nothing is published without being vetted. Everything they publish and say has endnotes, and there's great research backing up their comments. Safer Chemicals and Healthy Families is 450 organizations dedicated to human health, from the Autism Foundation to Parkinson's to cancer to low birth weight to early childhood development issues. It is a great resource. Additionally, we're not alone in this. The United Nations Environmental Program has a project focusing on 4 market sectors with the goal that all chemicals used in commerce will be safe for people and the environment. They're focusing on 4 market sectors: children's toys, textiles, electronics, and building products. Children's toys, what goes into the mouth, what is touched. Textiles, what's touching our skin. Electronics, things that heat up and in our house and have the opportunity, or on our desk and in our workplace, and have so many different materials and chemicals in them. And then building products, what surrounds us on a day-to-day basis.
We've already been talking a lot about your organization, Yzma, and you all know it better than us, but we were so happy to see that you too are aligned with organizations such as AIA and ASID. You recently updated your strategic priorities to include things like sustainability, and when we were going through to just try to see where you guys were, we noticed the numerous educational free white papers, articles, and how-to guides about how to implement this at your facilities. So another thing that we're commonly asked is, why as manufacturers do we feel that we need to take on this work around material health upon ourselves? Well, for years, the U.S. had lagging legislation that would protect consumers from toxic chemicals. Chemical manufacturers weren't required to disclose what ingredients they used, nor demonstrated whether or not they were safe before they went to the market. So, for example, in an instance like asbestos, which was known to cause harm, because of the legislation that was in place, the EPA had very little authority to take it off the market. When the Toxic Substance Control Act was put into place in 1976, there was about 62,000 chemicals, or 99% of the existing chemicals, that were grandfathered in, which means that they were assumed safe until they were proven otherwise. Even though the intent of TSCA was there weren't means to make it happen. Diverse stakeholders, including industry, some of the hospitals like Kaiser Permanente Howard mentioned, retailers, public health officials, we all began to band together and demand major TSCA reform. So in June 22nd of this year, TSCA received the first major update in over 20 years when President Obama signed this bipartisan bill into law. This is why manufacturers like CS, architecture firms, companies, we all took it upon ourselves to know what chemicals were in the products that we source and work with manufacturers to optimize them, because we felt like we needed to take control of it ourselves. Just to reiterate one more time, these sustainability goals are overarching. We have the 5 main pillars of sustainability onto the left, and it's integrated into everyone's work. Civilians, building owners, architects, designers, the United Nations, we're all working together to achieve these goals.
Understatement perhaps, but literally buildings are for people. There was a period of time where that wasn't understood the way in which it is today. That's not a criticism, it just wasn't where the building's development was at the time. But why do facility managers and owners care about sustainability? It's because you read the research. You listen to your markets, you listen to your customers, you listen to your tenants. Most importantly, as Kendra said, you're a part of a trade organization that's highly attuned to the people issues. You get Dr. Miller's comment. That's not a confusing comment for you based on how you work and based upon the survey. Buildings are for people. It's such an elementary statement, but really only recently understood at the level at which it's understood. And with us spending 90% of our time indoors, buildings are both Maslow's very basic shelter, but they're also Maslow's higher order. And finding the appropriate balance with the economics is sometimes challenging.
So why are building owners and businesses buying in on this whole idea around creating sustainable spaces that are built for health and wellness? That's because more and more companies are seeing employees as one of their greatest assets, and because there's proof in the pudding. Studies have shown that buildings that are LEED, WELL, or Living Building certified can attract and retain more employees, tenants, customers, clients, and even investors. We're noticing less bad in operations, things like fewer sick days, more ideas, and more predictable results, and we're seeing more good. Greater returns on investment, employee longevity, educational performance, and better reputations for the brand. A little bit later, Howard will talk about the WELL building standard, but WELL is a new standard that evaluates the ongoing aspects of the building's performance and occupants' behaviors. And this work that they're doing is giving us evidence that by designing to these best practices, it really does have these benefits. So I'm just going to go through these next couple of slides pretty quickly just to show you that you do have peers across diverse building types and the types of work that they're doing at their operations. So the Durst Organization is a unique company in the fact that they both build the buildings, but then they also own them. So this ownership makes them extra invested in their renovation and new construction work. And the Durst goal is to leave this place better than you found it. In order for them to do that, they're embedding sustainability practices into all that they do, from designing high-efficiency buildings to an extensive materials vetting process to green roofs. Dignity Health is very much like a Kaiser Permanente. It's a California-based nonprofit organization that operates hospital facilities in 17 states, and they too have a lot of buying power. Dignity is just one of the hospitals that get it. They were one that advocated for TSCA reform, and they released sustainability reports and material vetting process. You can see even by their webpage that they get that quote that Dr. Claudia Miller said, "What's good for the patients is good for the planet." They're making it very people-oriented. Sustainability at H&M. I mean, H&M 10 years ago, this probably isn't a company that we would have seen talked about in the sustainability conversation, but they've really changed their operations and have integrated it deep into their company's DNA. They're even advocating for conscious consumer awareness by offering take-back bins in all of their stores. We have Target. We've all seen these stores, and they're really working on getting us to know that they're brand. They are changing the way that they build their stores and how they stock their shelves. They're offering more organic and sustainably sourced seafood than ever. They've revamped their product packaging to be more sustainable, and they're even pushing efforts down their supply chains and asking the same thing of their suppliers and asking them to optimize the material chemistry of the products on their shelves. Google. Most of us probably come in contact with Google at some point across our day. Google is an impressive company that really cares about their employees' health and wellness. They even have a term for their employees. They're called Googlers, and they set a goal that they want their employees to live healthier, happier, and longer lives than the average citizen. And as such, they have an entire team around the built environment that vets every single design and material that comes into their buildings. So what they do is they ask manufacturers like us to upload whether our cradle-to-cradle certification or a health product declaration and a material ingredient list into this database that they created, where they can vet every material very closely before using it into one of their design projects. We also have it at various education facilities. Colleges and universities are using sustainability as a way to attract some of the best talents and some of the best students coming in. We even have the Princeton Review is now offering a ranking for guides to the top green colleges.
We've talked about these 5 primary aspects of sustainability. All of sustainability can be nested under all of these 5 aspects. They're the primary. There are subsets, multiple subsets under each primary. Energy is now beginning to be described as renewable energy and carbon management, because the beauty is you reduce your energy, you save money, that's good, and you reduce your CO2. Water conservation, unquestionably important, essential. Materials as products, free of harmful chemicals, we're all downstream. Not only are Target and Walmart changing the highly visible aspects, of their work relative to materials, but they've published a list of chemicals that simply aren't permitted in Walmart products. A Walmart labeled product cannot have certain chemicals of concern in it. Designed for reutilization. 5, 10 years ago, that would have been a recycling symbol. Recycling's not enough. Reduce, reuse, recycle, yes, but design the products to be reutilized. And that's really foundational within what is now being described as the circular economy. Circular economy is very much a cradle-to-cradle economy where these valuable non-renewable resources, these finite resources, are able to be kept in commerce in perpetual motion. And knowing the circumstances under which a product is made, environmental products can be put out onto the market and be claimed environmental, and yet you could really be a rascal and manufacture it in a third world country with child labor. We have to look at these things in today's economy, and we need to be asking many questions.
One of the standards that Howard mentioned earlier on that's evolved is LEED. This is starting October 31st. LEED users will have to register their products under the new LEED V4 rating system. And this rating system was developed with one goal in mind: to raise the bar in a way that challenges the building industry to set higher goals than ever before. As Howard mentioned, it was previously just focused on water energy reductions and how it impacted the local environment, but it didn't focus on the human interaction aspect. But now with the new changes, it does, and it really has forced architects, designers, and manufacturers to rethink how we do business. So the new goals, there are new market sectors that can get LEED certified. They now offer it for data centers and warehouses. They've changed the thinking from single attributes to multi-attributes. So this new way of thinking is forcing a paradigm shift on the industry, and it's making industry owners, contractors, designers, manufacturers more collaborative than ever. It's encouraging you to select products for which chemical ingredients are inventoried using an accepted methodology and verified to minimize the use and generation of harmful substances. And in our third webinar series, we will actually take a deeper dive into this topic around environmental certifications. But it also encourages raw material manufacturers to produce products with verifiably improved life cycle impact.
There are many labels out in that marketplace, and you well know that we as manufacturers sometimes over-leverage things and fail to explain the significance, and generally we confuse the world because we stand and puff out our chest and say my label's greener than their label, and it all gets rather blurry and confusing. So we've included this slide and called it Labels That Matter in LEED version 4. The U.S. Green Building Council spent well over 2 years vetting various labels, various certification processes, and in that, these are the labels that matter to them. Green Screen for safer chemicals, a screening process to understand the harmful chemicals within products. The Health Product Declaration, the HPD, under option 1, is transparency. Its goal is to simply put out there what's in that product. And then, as they once said, sunlight sanitizes. And if you're out there with something harmful chemicals in your product, dang, you're going to be ashamed. You're not going to want to be there. And customers are going to say, get off that. And then cradle to cradle, certification process, multi-attribute that Kendra spoke of. It includes all 5 areas, pillars of sustainability. The multi-attribute aspect of that assures you that a company is working not just on option 1, material ingredient reporting, but working toward platinum, ultimately, certification of the product that removes all the bad stuff. And then option 2, you'll notice that the HPD drops off, not out of disrespect, but option 2 is talking about optimization. The HPD shows what it is. Optimization is to be bringing alternatives into the chemistry, into the makeup of the product, and optimizing those materials for human health. The WELL standard, introduced 2 years ago at Green Build in New Orleans. The WELL standard has taken evidence-based design, which is really where architecture and design wanted to be, to understand, are our design changes making a substantive change? Is there a beneficial impact? And if there isn't, is this the right thing to be doing? Not just is there an economic impact, but is there a beneficial human impact on human health? The WELL building standard, as Kendra mentioned, we'll get into more deeply in future seminars. And then last of all, our last slide is the Living Building Challenge. The Living Building Challenge has been for years the, I would say with all good humor and respect, the uber green, to where what pulls us forward, not what pushes us forward, but what pulls us forward into achieving a higher level of sustainability. And the Living Building Challenge seeks to dramatically raise that bar and move from less harm to creating more good. It defines and develops the meaning of acting on the challenge. We're done talking for the moment. We'd really like your feedback. We really want to know, have we delivered on the description we gave at the beginning? Did we give you an overview of the foundations of sustainability and material health? Did we help? Are you going to be more conversant? Can you begin to describe differently? You already know this in many respects, but have we been able to help with putting sustainability into an actionable context? So we'd like your feedback. Josh, we turn it back to you.
Yes, and if you do have any questions, please type them into the question box on your control panel, and we'll be happy to go over them during this period. The section on the chemicals seems to hit quite a bit of a nerve, I guess. People are interested about it. Where can people go? You kind of touched on that with some of the LEED v4 labeling, but is there a way for people to go and buy and know they're buying, especially like custodial products that are safer, both for the commercial setting and then also people are asking about home setting as well? And
that's the really great part about it, because you vote with your check. On a commercial setting, if you could look at some of the products are Cradle to Cradle certified, some are Green Seal certified. There's a number of really good commercial and household cleaning products that are Green Seal and Cradle to Cradle. Two of the more common are Method and, why did I just forget the other?
Ecover, is that one? Ecover?
Method, Ecover, and 7th Generation. Their products are rooted, are designed. 7th Generation takes its name from the belief that the action of a business, plus or minus, carries forward as far as the 7th generation. So, does that answer your question?
I think that's a good start. Thank you. And then they're also continuing asking, I'll break this one into two different sections. With Target and Walmart using sustainable materials in their construction and within their stores, you mentioned that they are having certain chemicals are banned from their products. Are they also banning it from other manufacturers that they sell in their stores? Or is it strictly in their own store products?
Yes, it's also, if you want to have your product on a Walmart shelf, they are asking manufacturers to optimize. It is going to take some time to see that, but at least they've made that declaration, and it'll take some time to get all the way down through their supply chain. Walmart and Target, I know Walmart I can speak to, they actually make all of their vendors fill out a sustainability scorecard, and the customer has to meet certain requirements if they even want a spot on their shelves. I've heard the story of there was a small tortilla manufacturer who did not know anything about sustainability and didn't quite care. But once they wanted to sell to Walmart, and Walmart would not let them in, and now they have their roof covered in solar panels to meet Walmart's sustainability objectives for them.
Great, thank you. And we'll give people just a moment to type in if they have any other questions, or if I didn't fully go into the questions you were asking, just let us know. And while we're waiting for that, I do want to let you know the next webinar in this series will be next month in October. We are having to make a slight date change. Instead of it being on the first Wednesday, we're moving it to the second Wednesday, October 12th. That first one was just running into World Workplace. I know a lot of you will be at the conference, and this series has already garnered a lot of attention and a lot of registration, so we want as many people to be able to view it live. So if you are already registered for the October one, don't worry, that registration will just move. And I do apologize if it causes any scheduling conflict. It will be recorded as well, and I will send that recording out immediately following the October webinar. But do just note there is a date change. It will be October 12th. And I'm not sure if we have an exact date for the third one yet. I'm thinking it's in February. Do you know, Kendra?
I believe so, Josh. Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we wanted to give you a little break so it's not all sustainability all the time. So then we're going to take a break. There'll be different presentations for November, December, January, and then we'll come back and wrap up this series. But if the rest of the series is as good as this presentation, it's going to be a great three-part series. And someone's asking if you could have the handouts, PDF. Thank you for having the handouts as a PDF already. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad they're already uploaded for you. So at this time, I do want to note, the Corporate Facilities Council, if you are attending World Workplace, is having a meeting Wednesday morning from 9:15 to 9:45 in the Convention Center on the third level, room 11A. And there will probably be an email going out letting you know about that and the details, etc. At this time, Howard and Kendra, there are no other questions. I want to thank you very much for a great webinar.
Thank you all for having us. Thank you all for your participation and listening. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Great.
And again, if you have any questions or comments and you'd like to help us shape our second set for the series, please, our emails are in the beginning of the slide deck. Please send us an email, and we'd love to include that content in our next series.
Great. Thank you. And everyone, you have a great rest of your day.